Hi, I'm Lindsay Reiser, and we are continuing our coverage of Saturday's shooting at the White House Correspondents Dinner. Federal authorities there just providing an update on the investigation and suspect. He has been identified as 31-year-old Cole Allen, charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence, assault on a federal officer using a dangerous weapon, and attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. Prosecutors say the suspect traveled across the country to carry out this attack from where he lived near Los Angeles to Chicago and finally to D.C. He was armed, they say, with a shotgun, handgun, and 3 knives, but never breached the room where the event, where a number of journalists, Trump administration officials, and the president himself were sitting. During that press conference just moments ago, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said law enforcement did not fail and did exactly what they were supposed to do. Let's bring in Anna Schecter, head of our Crime and Public Safety Unit. So, Anna, that statement aside, we know Sam Vinograd has some questions, as do some other experts and people who were there, questions about how this was able to happen. But what do we know about the evidence behind the most serious charge, attempting to assassinate the president?
Well, one, the fact that he was apprehended as he charged through those metal detectors. He was armed with that shotgun. He is being charged with discharging that. It's unclear if the gun went off when he fell. It clearly says in the affidavit that he fell. So that's a little bit of new information that we've gotten over the last couple of hours. But then also in the affidavit, they actually copy and paste from this email that we've been reporting on for the last more than 24 hours that he timed to send to his family just as he was carrying out the attack. So the excerpt that they include in this affidavit lists out his targets, naming administration officials, high ranking to low ranking. So what he means is in order of his priorities, top ranking officials are his priority. Interestingly enough, he excluded Kash Patel, the FBI director, in that. But then there's another line that I think is important for us to report on. He also states that he is willing to plow through anyone who was also there because they willingly purchased a ticket to essentially hear President Donald Trump speak. So all of that is included, and surely prosecutors are going to lean heavily on that because it speaks to intent. Now, the other thing I think is interesting is they're stressing that he crossed state lines with these weapons, which is also he can be charged with a federal offense. But I expect to see some more charges, perhaps even terrorism-related charges, if they find they have the evidence. But they kept it pretty thin and locked into the evidence that they currently have.
Okay, so let's go back to sort of the aftermath and the security review post-attack. How are law enforcement agencies handling that review?
Well, this is a great question. I think the biggest question is why was the president of the United States and top cabinet officials, why were they allowed to be there at a hotel where anyone could rent a hotel room and check into the hotel? So that is a fundamental question. Now, what the Secret Service is saying is that they secured the perimeter of the event and that they did not everything right, but that everything went as planned in that the assailant was not able to gain entry into the ballroom. Now, just within the last couple of hours, we just got a statement from the Secret Service saying that they are acknowledging that they need to take a look at how this person was able to get inside the hotel in the first place. So that was actually a big moment and a big step, and kind of pitch perfect if they want to portray that they know that not everything went perfectly and they need to reassess given this incredibly high threat environment. Lindsay, we've been doing this for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen so many factors with the war in Iran, heightened political rhetoric, increasing numbers of political threats and political violence in this country. So it's a new ball game, and the Secret Service is having to completely reorient based on this threat environment.
What do you make of that time differential that Matt Gutman was talking about in the special report there? Because when they laid out the timeline, they said that the president and first lady entered the building at 8 p.m. The suspect, according to Judge Jeanine Pirro, now the U.S. attorney for D.C., said the suspect knew they entered the building at 8 p.m. and rushed the building at 8:40. But Matt said that he and many other people in that ballroom started rolling at 8:34. So there's
at
sort of
8:34. Yes, and my colleagues and I were sort of combing through this document and picking things like that out. Look, I don't read too much into that. I
Okay.
see a lot of indictments. This is a very high-profile one. They probably should have said approximately 8:34 or 8:35 p.m. Instead, they went with approximately 8:40. I'm not sure why they did that, but police and prosecutors, there's a team of people working on this document, and it's a chaotic environment, lots of new information coming through. They're getting new interviews with family members, and maybe it was an oversight, but I just don't read that much into it because I see these types of mistakes all the time.
Okay, Anna Schecter, we will talk to you more tonight on the Daily Report. Thank you. Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Erin Navarro. Erin, we know that you were inside when all of this unfolded, and I'm sorry to keep making you sort of relive it. If you want to move past this, we certainly can. But if you want to talk about your experience, we'd love to hear.
Lindsay, thanks for asking. I was at one of the tables near the main entrance that should the gunman have gotten past the magnetometers and the Secret Service, the tables where I sat with many of my CBS News colleagues and some other administration guests would have been the first tables the shooter could have potentially seen. Thankfully, that was not the case. We heard about 4 to 5 loud thuds. At first, there was a thought that crossed my mind that maybe it was something from the kitchen, plates falling, and then you started to smell what was gunpowder, as it was revealed later, as we learned. From then on, I went down to the lower platform in the ballroom and took cover along with some of my other colleagues and other guests as I saw Secret Service agents kind of jump from table to table as well as approach the podium to secure the vice president, the president, and many of the high-ranking officials that were there. After that, you started to hear rumblings from both the administration officials as well as Secret Service that the shooter had been taken down, and we were waiting for the all-clear before me and some of my other colleagues were escorted out of the building and went to the Bureau and then eventually the White House, where I was able to be in the press briefing room during the president's remarks after the shooting.
Well, thank you for sharing that experience and just the fact that you could even smell it. Just remarkable how close you were. How would you say the White House is responding to this? And has the president said anything about this since not only his press conference that night, but his interview with 60 Minutes' Norah O'Donnell?
I'll start with his interview with 60 Minutes. The president, when asked kind of about the timeline, the seconds of getting him off the stage, said in a way that he did not make it easy for Secret Service because he wanted to see what was going on. The president, of course, has unfortunately had experience with situations similar to this after the Butler, Pennsylvania rally during the 2024 campaign. At one point, he said, quote, "I wasn't worried. We live in a crazy world." And he really showed a lot of praise for the actions that Secret Service took that evening. Today, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, who told reporters last week that it would have been her last briefing last week because she was about to go on maternity leave, held a 1 p.m. briefing today and called for a de-escalation in violence, but also showed where the administration is maybe going with the messaging on this going forward, saying that it is the fault, the political violence, the rhetoric is at the fault of the Democratic Party, noting that some are campaigning on President Trump being a threat to democracy, especially ahead of the midterm. So that was a key moment, key quote from her to show where the administration is going with this as we get into the peak of the midterm season.
Okay, Erin Navarro, we will continue to talk to you throughout the afternoon and evening. And again, I'll see you on the Daily Report.